We all know Lethal Company has become extremely popular over the last month and a half or so. So let's rank every single enemy in the game from least harmless to most harmless. Now, let's start with company building levels. These are enemies that pose basically zero threat to you whatsoever. And for that, I'm gonna put the mine in there. And it is purely because I don't think the mine can actually kill you unless you personally look at it or you get caught off guard. But I definitely think this enemy is 100%, and it's the bottom, it cannot kill you. It is the Spore Lizard. Now the Spore Lizard is a threat in quotation marks. It doesn't really do much, it's basically harmless in the first place. All it does is shoot a spore at you, blinds you slightly. The only way it can kill you is if you walk into it and it smacks its tail. It runs away from you. You're basically invulnerable to it. So it 100% goes into the company building tier as it is harmless. I think there's one more entry that can be claimed. And I think it is definitely the top end. It is the Baboon Hawk. Now the Baboon Hawk, they bounce around, they're silly little goofy guys. They react to noise. You either shout at them or you spam drop items and you make a loud noise and they will just retreat. They aren't much of a threat. They can annoy you a little bit, but they aren't too bad, to be honest. When I look at this, there's not really many other enemies that can do barely anything to you. So, we'll go on to the experimentation tier now, which is the not too deadly tier. Now, for this, I am putting the Hydro Blob. I don't remember what it's actually called. I think it's called like the Hydro Gelatin or something. But the Giant Blob. Now, the Blob, it moves at a snail's pace. It really isn't deadly unless it traps you in a corner. If it traps you in a corner, yeah, GG, game over. Get on a rail if you can, but otherwise, you're screwed. If it teams up with an enemy as well, it is very, very vital that you get out of there quickly. But on its own, it's not really a threat, and I have to assess them on their own. Which also leads me on to my next one, which is the Loot Bug, or as I know them, the Yippies! They're great. I love the Loot Bugs. They're great. Obviously, they don't pose much of a threat. They kind of just wander around, and they will go make little scurrying sounds, or if you have mods, they'll make custom sounds. Mine goes, Yippee! Or my fellas. But the threat comes with them when there's either a bunch of them, or you find their loot stash and you go to steal something from their loot stash, where they will get angry. They will basically brutalize you and mutilate every single part of your corpse, unless you have a shovel, in which case they aren't really a threat. A lot of these, to be fair, with a shovel, aren't too bad. But I think the Loot Bug is not much of a threat, and I think if you're prepared, even when you take their loot, they aren't much of a threat. Unlike the next one, which moves us into the March tier, the Turret. The Turret, whew, these turrets depend on where they are. Most of the time, they are perfectly avoidable, unless you get a tunnel network and there is like 3 turrets all aiming down the same corridor, of which case, yeah, GG, you're done. It honestly, it could even potentially push into Rend tier, but I think it has to be in March. And it's basically because if you see a turret, you get a warning, it makes a sound, and then I think you're honestly fine. As long as you can avoid it, you're fine. And I think the Thumper also can go into this tier. Now the Thumper is definitely like an actual threat. But you can slow it down, and there are ways to cheese it still. Now the entire meta for them is that you jump over them instead of just hitting corners or going on the rail, because that got changed. Thanks version 47. But the Thumper is definitely a threat. It's fast, it comes at you lightning quick, but its speed does reset with every single new instance of a player it sees, and changes its targeting. And they can be really slow to start with. So if you hit it with a shovel, reset its speed, yeah, they aren't a threat at all. And I also think the Mimics are also a March level. I think they're definitely worse than the Thumper because they can catch you off guard, especially if you're playing multiplayer, which Lethal Company, of course, massive multiplayer game. You kind of have to play multiplayer to get the full experience, which is great. Honestly, I love Lethal Company so much. But the Mimic definitely poses more of a threat than the Thumper. If you're playing solo or you're sticking with your group, you see a Mimic, yeah, you're fine. Bring a shovel, whack if it grabs you, you survive. They aren't much of a threat if you know how to deal with them. You can loot them as well. It's very easy to loop a Mimic, actually. They kind of have the intelligence of an actual NPC in the game. And I think that is a nightmare. And definitely to round up March tier, you can't really see it, but it's the Earth Leviathan. The giant worm that you get on Experimentation Assurance. I think you get it on Rend and Dine as well. You get a warning, but you have a very limited time. Like, you can either get a decent amount of seconds, like 5 seconds, you can drop everything, you can run away from it. Cool. Never a threat in that situation. But it can also be a threat because sometimes it can just go underneath you, swipe you out, you're done. Game over. GG's. Which, to be fair, it does one hit you. But you can easily avoid them if you know how to avoid them, which is drop your items and run. Now, I'm going to go over to Rend tier. And I'm going to start Rend tier with the Snare Flea. The Snare Flea is almost always a threat because it's able to catch you off guard very easily. If you're playing solo, you can survive it, which is fine, cool. But if you're playing multiplayer, you either have to get out of the facility or someone has to hit it. And if you can't see anything with a Snare Flea on you, you're not the one hitting it. I've died to Snare Fleas, I think, more than most other enemies in this game because they've caught me off guard. And that isn't too bad. And I'm happy to admit I've died to them multiple times because of how annoying they are. They catch you off guard. That's basically all there is to them. And I think this one is almost always a threat as well. The Beehive. Now, I know how to grab a Beehive solo. And personally, for me, they're like here, if not maybe here. They are definitely Experimentation or March for me. But if I'm going off generally, they are definitely a threat to new players especially. If you're new and you grab a Beehive without distracting the bee, and you put it in the ship, yeah, you're like here with it. They're definitely a threat because they don't insta-kill you, but if you get hit by it like twice even, when you grab it, even if you're a veteran like myself when it comes to grabbing a Beehive, you get stung by that thing twice, you die to anything in one hit, and that is genuinely what makes them a threat. It's not the killing ability, it's the amount of damage they can do to a player in one go. And speaking of doing damage to a player in one go, the Coilhead is definitely almost always a threat in my opinion. Now, I don't think they're that bad, personally. I don't encounter them often anymore, which is kind of weird. But obviously you have to just stare at it. If you're playing multiplayer, cool. If you're playing single player, it is literally the top end of Titan. It is GG, game done. You might as well just F4. But the Coilhead is just more of an annoyance than it is an actual threat. It takes 2 hits to kill you anyway in the first place. So if it hits you once, you can just look around, stop it there. You can trap it behind doors very easily because they just follow you. They aren't much of a threat as long as you have doors and you know your way out, basically. Now, I think to round off the Rend tier, it has... Actually, no. Spider. Spider will be here. Now, the Spider, if you stare at it whilst it's curled up, it's like a Coilhead. Does not move. However, once it gets its webs up, oof, have fun getting any loot from that area because it is GG, game over in that area. Can't go there, you can't do anything. And now, definitely, to round up the Rend tier, is the Bracken. I don't find the Bracken to be much of a threat. It's kind of a pussy, it just sits in the shadows, you know, watches you, then tries to sneak up on you. All you need to do is just look at it for like 2 seconds and it fucks off. You stare at it though, and it is definitely a GG game over, unless you can run away from it. Which, to be fair, you can quite easily, but it will open doors very quickly. In which case, if you get to that, it's GG game over. Now, this definitely will round up Rend. I think I've tried to round up Rend multiple times, but this is definitely top tier of Rend. The Nutcracker. The Nutcracker can't see you unless it's standing still, and it's using its eye in the middle to look at you. It can kick you, cool, avoid its legs. It can shoot you, okay, GG. No matter what, it will one-hit you. But you need to be careful with it. They are always a threat to a degree. They are always going to be annoying, because if you have a coil head as well, it's definitely GG. You can kill them, you can bait them. They aren't hard to bait either. You can just walk around them. Or you just stand still and it won't do anything as long as you don't move, no matter what. And I think the Nutcracker is definitely the most threatening member of the Render tier, other than maybe the coil head, which actually I'm going to put it like that. But now, Titan tier. These are the ones that you see it's GG game over. First of all, Jester. Okay, you can go outside the map and it stops it from doing its rampage. But you see that boy and you're stuck in a tunnel. Oof. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Or if you're unaware, the Jester's round up. Because you could be outside. Your friend dies to the Jester. The Jester's still roaming around. You go in the facility. You've not heard it wind up at all. You think it's safe, and then it just murks you. Jesters are by far one of the most annoying and definitely a GG game over. If you see one. Now, the Blind Dog. They're a GG game over because sometimes they get you off guard, or they just walk into you and it is definitely a GG game over. No matter what happens, it's a GG game over if it walks into you, or if you make a sound, because it will come straight over to you and kill you. I was playing yesterday going for high quotas with my friend. My friend ran way too early, got killed by a dog. I had to grab every bit of loot, around 5 dogs, and it was a nightmare. It could have been GG game over. But I kept quiet. That's the only thing that I think keeps them from being top end. Now, I think this is the second most threatening entity in all of Lethal Company. The Ghost Girl. As long as you don't look at her, you're basically fine. But she's so annoying when you're haunted. Obviously, if you're haunted, people think you're schizo in the first place if they don't know she exists. Not a good thing at all for anybody who wants to do this. But you can take a shower to cleanse away the haunt. I've never seen anyone actually use the shower, but apparently you can just use it to cleanse yourself from being haunted. Kinda cool, I guess. But you look at her 3 times, she'll do a little funny giggle, she'll come towards you. You can technically loop her, but the chances of survival are definitely very, very, very low. And she is most certainly the most threatening entity in the facility in the entire game, in my opinion. But the most threatening entity in the entire game is the Forest Giant. The Forest Giant is honestly, no matter what happens, if it gets line of sight of you, it's GG game over. You can try and snap its ankles or go around an entirely different direction or get teleported. Honestly, the only way I can think to counter this is to teleport someone. If you teleport someone whilst the giant's near them, you can bait the giant away, and then you can come and grab everything, which is just perfect if you're doing a late night run, and you need to get that quota. And if I'm being honest, if I wanted to revise this at all, maybe I would move the Earth of the Firefin up to Rend tier, maybe put the Mimic down, I don't know. But I think that tier list is honestly fine. And now I want to thank every single one of you for watching. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 1.2k, which is kind of wild. I'm hoping to make more Lethal Company videos like this in the future. So let me know what other things you want to see me do with Lethal Company. Maybe I can rank every single piece of loot. Or I can rank planets. Let me know in the comments. But I want to thank you all for watching. It means the world to me. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, share this to friends as well if you enjoyed this video and think they will also enjoy it. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.